The Chicago Cubs have not had it easy since winning the World Series in 2016. They've been to the postseason 3 times since then, lost in the wild card twice, and lost in NLCS, with a record of 4-1 in that series, by the way. So they haven't been the best team since then, right? Going into 2021, the Cubs had their set core. This core featured absolute ballers in Anthony Rizzo, Kris Bryant, and Javier Baez. This core is what, of course, got them to the World Series win, and these 3 really felt like they were locked together with the Cubs, like they wouldn't be traded ever. Well, in 2021, the Cubs simply weren't very good. They also had expiring deals with a lot of their core and knew it would be in the best interest of a good future to get rid of these 3. We'll start with the Baez trade, which I think ultimately may even have the biggest impact on this organization. The Cubs sent out Javier Baez and Trevor Williams into the Mets organization, and they got a very big prospect in return. As we know, the Mets were at a point, a very aggressive point that was, where they would go ahead and just make the biggest trades you could imagine and the biggest free agency deals that you could imagine. Well, in this trade, they sent away Pete Crow Armstrong. Yeah, you know, the top prospect now for the Cubs, who actually just got promoted to AAA, and in 2023 so far is batting .280 with 15 home runs and an .880 OPS. The guy looks like the real deal and is a very, very good shot to be on that Cubs 2024 opening day roster. Keep in mind, the Mets traded him a year after they took him, which was, of course, in the 2020 draft, where he went round 1, pick 19. Keep in mind, the Cubs acquired him for Javier Baez, who had an expiring contract anyway, and was playing poor for the Cubs to begin with. So I think that this is really what began as a new era for Cubs baseball. One of the other trades that they made in 2021 featured Kris Bryant. He was dealt to the Giants, but this may have been the most emotional trade of them all, because these guys had actually been preparing for them to be potentially dealt for a little while. But still, this one really affected Bryant, because when he found it out that he was traded, and he just really started breaking down, right? He was in the dugout, he just started crying and crying and crying. And I mean, unfortunately, baseball is a business. You know, that was the business side of it. So how has this trade actually panned out? Well, honestly, as of right now, it hasn't meant really much at all. Caleb Killian, one of the 2 prospects they got in this trade, made his debut in 2023. He pitched 3 innings, giving up 7 runs to the Marlins. He was later set back down to AAA, where he hasn't looked bad, and he even actually got called back up yesterday to the big league. So we'll see what he has in the tank, I guess, but he's looked pretty solid in AAA. The last trade before getting into the new era of Cubs baseball was Anthony Rizzo. This trade hasn't really had a ton of meaning for the Cubs so far, but it could in the future. They got outfielder Kevin Alcantara, and he right now has looked very, very good at the high A level, and I could see a promotion into Double A really any week now. You know, he's their number 4 prospect as well right now, so I have high hopes for the kid. We'll see what he has to the table, I guess, in the future. These are pretty much, though, all the notable trades that they've made and all the notable moves that they've ended up making what is now, of course, one of the top farm systems in all of baseball. Some are ranking them top 3, some top 5, and of course, obviously, this is a top 10 farm system in baseball. But let's get into some of the other moves that are currently impacting the Cubs in a super positive way. In the 2021 offseason, the Cubs went in knowing that they were going to be buyers. They absolutely did not want to take the approach of let's do nothing in free agency and be in a massive rebuild and just wait for the farm system to be bundled up. Instead, they went ahead and started by bringing in catcher Yan Gomes, and he, of course, was brought in on a 2-year contract worth $13 million. This even includes a 3rd-year option, which I do believe that they will end up using. So far in 2023, Yan has been great at 36 years old. He has a .273 batting average and 9 home runs. He's just been one of the more productive catchers in all of baseball this season, and even a key part of what they've done in 2023. Which again, you know, we'll get into the results of 2023 very, very soon, but let's continue about the roster construction, which involved Marcus Stroman, the starting pitcher from the New York Mets. They brought him in on a giant contract, which was 3 years worth $71 million. He's now 32 years old, and has been very, very productive throughout the contract, or I guess the time that he's been on this team. I think overall, he's always out there giving them quality starts, and, they even signed a few bullpen arms as well, but I don't think any of those are really that notable. But the most notable move that they did make was Seiya Suzuki. Of course, a Japan player and outfielder brought in on a 5-year deal worth $85 million. And again, there were other moves that were made, but I believe that these are the most important and the most notable, moves that were made by this Cubs team. In 2022, the Cubs went 74-88, and they didn't look ready to contend. And I think that we knew going into the season that this roster likely wasn't going to be doing great things, and they definitely didn't do great things. So the next offseason, it was yet again interesting from Chicago. Their one goal going into 2023 was really, let's go ahead and make a roster that can contend, and one that will contend all year around and of course have a good future. They said, okay, we have a hole at shortstop right now. Let's bring in Dansby Swanson on a massive 7-year deal worth $177 million. This is, of course, the market for shortstops right now in Major League Baseball. The Cubs knew that. They went ahead and brought in Dansby. And overall, I think that this deal has panned out. He struggled a little bit at first, but I think finally has things under control again, with a .264 average, 17 homers, and an .804 OPS. I'd expect the 29-year-old shortstop to continue his success for this year and carry it out onto next year. And as great as this all sounds, right, this wasn't even the best move that they made. The best move they made was outfielder Cody Bellinger, who was brought in on a 1-year contract worth $12.5 million, with a $25 million option for 2024. They took a gamble on the former MVP, who the previous 2 years really struggled with the Dodgers. Fast forward to now, he's batting .326 with 16 homers and a .925 OPS. The gamble turned into one of the best moves by the Cubs in a very long time and one of the best moves in Major League Baseball. So he's only 28 years old. I would look for an extension to come his way by the Chicago Cubs. Right now in 2023, the Cubs are second in their division at 58-54, and I think that they will end up winning that division. The Reds are one of the most overrated teams in baseball, and if you want to hear more about that, go watch yesterday's video. But then you also have the Brewers, of course, who are kind of solid, right? They're solid. And I like what they have, but I think that the Cubs are better and have a much higher ceiling. The Brewers are 60-53, so a team in the Cubs that are only 1.5 games back are right on their tail. The Cubs are 15-4 on their last 19 games, and this team is just dominant, and I think that they'll even continue this. I mean, this month, it's just been absolutely special, right? It's going to continue to be key for them as well, as if you want to win that division, there's a lot of factors that go into it. They have a lot of divisional matchups this month, and of course, this is featuring the Brewers and the Pirates. The Brewers, a team that they are competing with, and then the Pirates, who have really looked not very good. Which, of course, that really turns into your must-win games going into Pittsburgh. They also have to win this series that just began against the Mets and win the White Sox series in a few weeks. Plus, they play the Tigers and the Royals for quite a few games this month. So if they can win the games that they need to, which of course they've done over the last month, they'll be in good shape, and I think the best shape in the division even. I mean, right now that team is fun. And, as good as I've even made them sound out to be, I don't even think that they're at their peak. I think Seiya Suzuki has a lot of potential, and I think if he could get it going, this team will just be on a whole other level in that lineup. And same goes for Jameson Taillon. I think he could be a solid arm in that rotation. He just has to start to get it going, and has to try to do it very, very quickly. This team is very, very smart, and, I think that they knew when to sell, they knew when to buy, and of course they knew when to buy again. And, they knew when to sell off the right players at the same time. And then bring in cheap players who are going to be able to give you extreme quality, like Cody Bellinger, and then along with expensive players who have mostly panned out, like Dansby Swanson. I think that this team will likely win the division in 2023, and if not 2023, watch out for 2024. I mean, really just watch out, because I would expect this team to go off. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Make sure to drop a like if you have not already, and peace out.